Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 14th of December. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barrie. How are we getting on, Joshua?
Good. Cold, Derek, this morning. I know I repeated this, but I think it's -8 where I am this morning. So,
Oof.
I know, brittle. Heating's been on since I got up.
Yeah, we'll deal with the bills at a later date, I think. It's the same down here in Warrington. I'm just actually checking the temperature as we speak. That's how you know it's live, folks. -5 for me, so
Close to
tropical down here. Get the sun loungers out.
Yeah, it's been the coldest week that I can remember in a long time, Derek. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't call for the football on Thursday night. Well, tomorrow it's not long, is it?
Yeah, cannot wait for that. The break is nearing an end. Of course, we had Bayer Leverkusen at the weekend for a little taste, but it'll be great to get Rangers back in a competitive sense tomorrow night. Right, let's get to it, folks. Before we do that, you can see a little ticker below. Just 2 months worth of content on the Rangers Review site for just £1. It's our Christmas offer. Lots of you taking advantage of it. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as you can see, the little signage on your screen as well. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Over 10,000 subscribers now. We surpassed that the other week or so ago. So thank you very much for your support. It was greatly appreciated. Some temperatures coming in the comments that I'll get to. A few of them -10 in Erskine, says
wow.
Chris McLean. Holy moly. Ian Campbell says -9 in Inverness. Caroline just says it's still freezing here in Kilmarnock. I think it's always, every time I've been to Kilmarnock, it's been absolutely freezing. Stephen Gillespie says, morning trips, wrong side of Baltic in Falkirk. And CGM 55 says, -8, surprised Josh's hair gel isn't frozen solid.
This guy's definitely bald if he's commenting on hair gel. But no, it's not. I've actually not got any in. My hair's just a mess, CGM. But there we have it. It probably will be when I go out today for the press conference.
Yeah. That's later on. I see a question did come in about what time that press conference is on at from Alan. I believe it's just after 1 over at the training ground. Josh is going for us. We'll speak to Michael Beale, of course, and a player as well. And all the reaction from that you'll see on the Rangers Review site and on our social media channels as well. Quite excited about this press conference taking place, Joshua, because of course, we have spoken to the new manager, but his first competitive fixture, and he's certainly someone that you're happy listening to. He's got a lot to say with regards to football, and I think it could be quite interesting today.
Well, I think it was a Tillman answer at the weekend when he was speaking about. He was asked 2 questions about Tillman at the game after the weekend, and within that. Within that,
CGF 55 just getting back. He's slightly receding, like me, but still plenty there. Thanks. Glad we cleared that up. Right, carry on, Joshua.
Sorry. Within that, there were so many headlines. I think we've discussed this. Tillman being compared to Ballack, which is no pressure. Tillman, Beale explaining maybe why he's not had the best start of the season, saying you'd definitely sign him. So he just has lines and lines and lines, but he really has. It's a point that we've kind of reaffirmed, I guess, Derek, over the first few weeks. Beale needs to obviously go and back this up, but again, this isn't a coach or a backroom staff member who, is never really done press conferences, and as a result, he's struggled to find his voice. I think he's kind of thrived on that. He speaks a lot about relationships in relation to coaching and getting the best out of players, so he knows how to use press conferences and use interviews. And so far, I think he's done that because he's been able to talk about the style that he thinks fans want. Yeah. There's been a real intentional emphasis on building up players who, obviously, their confidence, in particular, someone like Kent looked a bit shattered by the end of Van Bronckhorst's era. So looking forward to it, but the real thing starts tomorrow, Derek, for all the positives from what Beale's saying, and even from the friendly, which, although we can't read much into the result, it was certainly looked improved from a Rangers point of view. You need to go and beat Hibs, and then you've also got the trip to Aberdeen, which I was forgetting about in between the trip to Ross County. So it's not an easy start, puts it that way.
Yeah, and Colin Cooper gets in touch and says, we'll find out about Goldson today. I think everyone is hoping that Connor Goldson will be available for tomorrow night. That's ahead of schedule. That was one of the big takeaways from his press conference at the weekend, Joshua, wasn't it? Was the fact that he said that he's going to have 4 options, hopefully, in central defence. That certainly bodes well, because Rangers have missed Connor Goldson massively for me. I know he has his critics out there. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think he's the glue for that Rangers defence that holds it together. And I think if they can get him back, even if it's just off the bench or whatever, or tomorrow night, I think it's a welcome boost.
Oh, definitely. When I was asked by a good friend of the show, Stevie Clifford, or part of the show, Stevie Clifford, and he, I think everyone was taken aback when Beale, said Connor. And everyone thought, is there another Connor that's injured? Because obviously it was meant to be, I think, the new year. There did seem to be, if you remember when the injury was initially announced, I think Van Bronckhorst thought it was going to be longer, and then January seemed to be a bit more of a more promising time frame. Whether he actually has 4 options, because if again, we don't know where Davies has been at injury-wise, but he wasn't obviously in the squad at the weekend. I'd be surprised if he goes and plays Goldson right away. That said, Goldson is quite unique in the fact that he does play largely every game, probably one of the fittest and more robust members of that squad. King and Sands isn't a centre-back partnership. I think it would worry a few people going back into the first game of the season, purely because they're not very experienced. I think the only game they've played together was that Champions League defeat against Ajax. I could be wrong, but King so far is still only 18. He's had a few difficult games, but I think he's kind of bounced back relatively well. Sands playing out position, Beale said at centre half at the weekend. We know the conversation about him, the strengths he can bring, perhaps the slight weaknesses he has in his game as well. It'll be interesting to see what type of player Beale makes out of him. But if you could get Goldson back in there quickly, especially Derek before those trips up to Ross County and Aberdeen, particularly because of his aerial ability, both defending and attacking set pieces, which Rangers have really missed, I think.
Yeah, Ross gets in touch. A good comment here. Morning, Ross. I generally argue Connor Goldson is our most important player. He gets way more criticism than he should. His consistency up until his injury was remarkable. Listen, if he features at any point on Thursday night, I think it'll be a welcome boost for Rangers. Lots of comments coming in. That's an interesting one. Malky gets in touch. He says, will the game be cancelled with this weather? Listen, it is freezing, but Rangers do have top quality under soil heating at the ground. I can't imagine it'll be called off. The only thing that would possibly deem it unplayable would be possibly conditions underfoot outside the stadium if it's dangerous for supporters to attend. But I can't see it being called off at this point, but we'll keep an eye on things, and of course the temperature, the dipping temperature at the moment. And Ian Muir just rubs it in here, Joshua. He says, sorry guys, 28 degrees in Sydney. Wow. We don't need comments like that, Ian. Thank you very much.
Enjoy, Ian. That's all I'll say. Enjoy. I don't mind the cold normally, but when it's this cold, it is actually not fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, enjoy, Ian, but I'm jealous.
Yeah, Colin Cooper says need above soil heating. Derek, yeah, absolutely. Get heaters in and around the ground, especially the press area would be tasty. Doing the Bolton game last night, I had to bring out the heater for the first time this season, which was a godsend. But listen, it's mighty chilly out there. Make sure you wrap up warm, folks, if you're heading to the game tomorrow night. Right. I also wanted to talk about some bits of news, Joshua, that was making the headlines. Firstly, yesterday, and congratulations from everyone at the Rangers Review to Dr. Stephen Davis. He was awarded an honorary doctorate from the Queen's University in Belfast for his services to sport in his homeland. Fantastic achievement. That would now refer to him as Doctor, Joshua.
Yeah, and who could not like Stephen Davis? Love Stephen Davis. I mean, I thought it was a really nice photo of him. I mean, Stephen Davis, class, isn't he? Yeah, Stephen Davis deserves a doctorate, and I don't even know what it was for, Derek. But still kicking the ball. I actually thought he looked pretty sharp when he came on at the weekend. It'll be interesting to see if Beale reinstates him. I kind of think he won't be a first team pick all the time purely because of his age. But yeah, what a career! When he retires, I think there'll be a lot of tributes, and justifiably so.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if he's put up for the press today. I hope you address him as Doctor.
Doctor.
That's
We're Doc.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, congratulations to Stephen Davis. And listen, Kenny McLean is a name that's not going to go away, Joshua. He's given an interview to a Norwich City podcast. He was speaking about Rangers. I'll just read you a snippet of what he said on there. Talking about his future, he said, I think long-term it will be back home in Glasgow. And talking about whether he'd be signing for Rangers, he says, I get asked that so much. Honestly, no, not really. When asked about the prospect of signing a pre-contract, there's always talk, he says, but there's never been anything in front of me saying, there you go, pulling on my heartstrings. In the past, there has been more than just paper talk. It's never materialized into anything. Would I love it one day? Of course. If you're brought up and that's who you support, then of course I would. My family would be over the moon. Would you be over the moon if Rangers were to sign Kenny McLean? I think I've asked you this before.
That's a come and get me plea if there ever was one there, wasn't it? Well, just for anyone who wasn't following it, the day, I think it was the day that Van Bronckhorst was relieved of his duties, was actually the day that I think the top conversation.
Well, we're going
to
a
slightly dry start to the World Cup break was going to be those Kenny McLean links, which is why it's more notable for us when it comes up. Obviously, on a realistic point, it obviously fits into homegrown player, someone who has had a very good career playing in the Premier League, but is signing a midfielder of that age, the transfer business that people will be anticipating next summer. Maybe not, but I'm sure. But I still tend to think of 30 as the kind of downward hill for players. But that's not really the case anymore, isn't it? Prime example being someone like Stephen Davis, who came back. Was he 36 when he came back to Ibrox the second time around? 37?
Was, yeah.
I remember that game against
35, maybe 34, 35.
Let us know in the comments if you can remember. But I remember the game against St Mirren, 4-0 game, where Davis played slightly higher up the park, and it's when Gerrard, I think he was trying to kind of split strikers in his first season, which eventually they went to at the end of his third season, and you just thought Davis, you were thinking, is he going to manage to do it again at Ibrox? Because on that day, in that position, he just didn't look quite as good. And then you see him obviously in that title-winning season with how good he was at the base of midfield. John there saying he was 34.
Yeah, thanks, John.
But I think there'll be more exciting transfer rumours there, put it that way. Also, there is a reality that Rangers need homegrown players, and sometimes I guess that as well came into the John Souttar signing, which is something that was alluded to at the AGM.
Yeah, Stephen Gillespie says if he's on a low wage, and Alan says, could he be Arfield's replacement? Listen, if he's on a low wage and he's itching to get up the road and be part of a squad, I wouldn't be opposed to Kenny McLean coming to Ibrox. I've got to say, I don't think you'd be a first choice in any way, shape or form, but I think he's a decent player and would do a job. John Dooley gets in touch. Hi, John. Good morning, Derek and Joshua. Sorry late to the party. Just back from getting the butcher meeting for Christmas. What have you got, John? Is it a big turkey this year? We're doing beef Wellington, Joshua, in our house. What are you doing?
I don't know. I've not asked my mum because we're going back to my parents. But we did last. We did. I think we did one of the. It was like different birds, like the duck and the three bird thing you can buy at the supermarket. Yeah, not three separate things. That would be a bit adventurous. But I'm not actually that much of a fan of turkey, and I'm not convinced that many people are.
No, I think it's a Christmas thing.
I like beef Wellington. That's a good good option.
Yeah, I think turkey is certainly a Christmas thing, isn't it? If you have a decent sauce to go along with it, then I think it can be okay, but it can be a bit dry. But let us know in the comments, folks, what are you having for Christmas as this conversation takes a slight turn? Listen, there's a few things on the website I wanted to talk about, Joshua. You've done a couple of analysis pieces on there. Firstly, Antonio Colak, and if the Croatian will thrive in this Michael Beale system. There is a bit of debate around that, and whether he's a Michael Beale type of player. I tend to think he will get an opportunity, and I think he will do well under Michael Beale. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, well, we've kind of done a few of these, Derek, over the last few days, and obviously you can read these on the website. I'd point everyone as well in the direction. I'm going to put it in the comment section in a minute. Martin Ramsey, who is an author, obviously does stuff with Heart and Hand as well. Podcaster over there has written a brilliant piece looking at a number of different things. But I guess that the main topic of conversation is the Rangers managerial role and drawing on some historical accounts as Martin likes to do. So I'd recommend that to everyone. Colak, you're right. On the surface, it seems to be simple. Here's a player who scored 11 goals in 14 starts. If you count in substitute the times he's come off in games, that's 11 goals in just over 12 minutes. Overperformed his expected goals by a considerable margin. And you think, well, he's going to get more chances under Beale. He's going to be playing closer together to his attackers playing under Beale. And you think that the team will play better, generate more chances. But then, as you say, Derek, the conversation then turns to, well, will he do enough outside the box? Does Beale need a forward who's going to drop in like Alfredo Morelos did last time round and overload the midfield? Because that obviously gives defences a problem. Do they drop with them and leave a space in the defence, or do they not drop with them and leave a free man in midfield? But one of the many comments that Beale's made, obviously, in the first couple of weeks, was speaking about the fact that effectively he's not just going to come and rehash the plan he had a couple of years ago. We've spoken about the variety and his new ideas and what that could mean, maybe a bit more fluidity within his system, but also saying it's about this group now. And I'm sure he'll come in and he'll see the Colak goal return, which is something that he didn't really have last time he was here as a coach at Ibrox. Yes, he had it with Defoe, but obviously Defoe was coming towards the end of his career and probably couldn't play as regularly as Colak. And I think he'll look at a way of trying to harness that. I do think he might try and play Colak and Morelos together at points. It's whether Morelos can get it together for a sustained amount of time. But equally, there's kind of numbers in there, and it's free to read this piece because it's a newsletter that kind of compare his contribution to Morelos in open play, and it's just an interesting conversation because of the stylistic differences. But I tend to agree with you, Derek. I think when you've got that good a goal return, and it's not as if Colak can't contribute outside the box. I don't think he's as comfortable doing it, but I think he's much better now than he was at the start of the season, when I think you could see his confidence was slightly affected by Livingston away at the opening day of the season. I think he'll certainly be someone that Beale looks at and thinks, okay, he might not have these attributes that I'd like in a striker, but he does have a really important thing that is really hard to come by, and Rangers actually got for quite cheap this summer, which is a goal guarantee, especially when he's not had the best opportunity of chances to work with in the opening part of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the comments coming in here. Well, this one tickled me from Willie Stewart. It says, "You guys are wimps. In the old days, us Rangers dads enjoyed much colder temperatures, and we had ice on the inside of our windows." Absolutely, Willie. And a comment here from World's Greatest DJ. Any chance of Roof being involved on Thursday night? Willie, wasn't it the weekend? I can't imagine he will be, Josh. I'm sure he'll be asked. We'll make sure we ask Michael Beale about an injury situation today. I can't see him being involved. Can you?
No, I'd be surprised. I mean, Beale obviously said don't read too much into the starting 11 on Saturday, but I don't think they'll be too far from the team that started. Maybe Matondo not playing in there. I'd like to see Lowry. I don't think he will, but I'd like to see Lowry start, especially in that free role alongside Kent and Tillman. I think behind the central striker like Colak, who you know is going to get you goals, to have a creative three of Lowry, Tillman and Kent able to play in field because the fullbacks are going high. That's an exciting trio, but I don't think he'll or maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise us on. Maybe he will start, but I thought he'd have played a little bit more at the weekend if that was going to be the case.
Yeah. Let's get to a few more of the comments coming in. This is an interesting one from Ian Murray gets in touch. How about Rangers checking out Harry Souttar, John's brother, who had just had an amazing World Cup for Australia? Yes, he did have a good World Cup, Ian. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I have seen him a couple of times for Stoke City. And he was a decent player. He's absolutely enormous. I'll put it. He's about 8 foot tall. But listen, I think he's a decent player. Joshua, what do you make of Harry Souttar?
Yeah, obviously, as we've discussed before, I think Rangers should theoretically have their 2 starting centre-backs if they can get Ben Davies fit over a consistent period of time. Yeah. But Harry Souttar, he was one of the standouts in that World Cup for the first, until Australia got knocked out. And on the topic of that, Messi last night, it's going to happen, isn't it? It has to happen now. I just thought when he put in that performance last night, surely he's going to win it.
I secretly hope Morocco win it. I just want them to win, because nobody would have predicted that at the start, would they? Morocco, but they've got a big game, of course, today against France. But you're right, Joshua. I think it's almost written in the stars that Messi is going to guide this Argentina team to the World Cup, isn't he? And you often see it.
He has to, and to go out like that, it's just so. You see that third goal last night, and you think he's 35. You compare him to Ronaldo, who is not the player that he was, and Messi still in those moments just looks as good as he ever has done. So sorry for the ad lib, but I'm sure people won't mind talking about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure Borna would have put him into Rosed if he was playing. So that's on the Croatian manager, that decision. But there's a question coming in about Borna, actually, from Sonny Boy. Will Borna be involved if he's due to return today? Now, I know he didn't play, but I think that's highly unlikely, Joshua, that they would feature tomorrow night. I may be wrong.
Third place playoff as well, Derek, because is that not?
Oh, right enough. Yeah, totally forgot about that. Yeah, he's involved in that at the weekend on Saturday. So that's a negative. He won't be back for the match against Hibs. And for me, Joshua, I wrote a piece on the website. I think Adam Devine is more than able to occupy that role until Borna gets back, or in fact until Ridvan gets back fit again. I think Rangers have got a very good young player on their hands in Adam Devine.
Yeah, Beale spoke at the weekend about Devine possessing kind of the attributes that he needs to step up to men's football. He's quite athletic. I think he times his runs really well, which is something we saw earlier in the season. I think it was Queen of the South in the League Cup. And he's not left-footed. He's not the most comfortable on his left foot. But Beale said that sometimes allows you to play inside the pitch a bit more. Again, I think we touched on that. It might not always be a positive, but he didn't look at all kind of out of place. And again, it's a friendly, but he was up against Diaby, who is not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. So I think it'll be him, Derek, and I think it'll be him until either Ridvan or Borna is ready to play, and they're perhaps not just rush back in. That said, Devine going again away to Pittodrie and Ross County over a busy festive period. It's a difficult time to be thrown in. So you'd imagine that the manager would have a fair amount of confidence in him to do that.
Yeah, certainly. Let's get to some more of the comments coming in here. Jim McKerrow, good friend of the show, says, good morning, lads. Sorry I'm late tuning in. Wife very slow in sorting breakfast today. Blamed the freezing weather. Pretty poor excuse, I thought. Me too, Jim. That's unacceptable. Not what you having today, Jim? What's on the menu breakfast wise for you in the morning, Joshua? What's your go-to?
I don't know. I actually don't normally have breakfast.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I normally have something at about 11:30, 12. So I tend to have a coffee, and then I have a very boring breakfast of which I'm not of like I like yogurt with like a fruit bowl. I like that. I don't know how about 12. What about you? You're a breakfast man, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can't eat at that time in the morning. It just makes me feel ill.
What 9?
Yeah. What would you have?
Well, I had porridge and a banana this morning. That'll keep me going for the next little while, and then we'll look at having a second breakfast, perhaps maybe a brunch when you start eating. Jim McKerrow gets in touch again. He says fried eggs, bacon, and mushrooms.
Living well. I wouldn't mind getting cooked that every day, but no, I can't eat at that time in the morning, Derek. So
yeah, well, Caroline agrees with you, Joshua. She says she's not a breakfast person either. Bob says typical posh breakfast for West End, Josh. Plenty of options, right enough, over that neck of the woods.
Not too expensive. Too expensive for me, Bob. That's normally it's taking it into Rangers Review HQ and putting it in the fridge. But today, obviously, with the press conference, that'll be working at home until then.
Yeah, and just a reminder, folks, that press conference this afternoon, just after 1 o'clock, where we'll speak to both the manager and whatever player is put up to talk about tomorrow's match against Hibs. Of course, Rangers back in action at Ibrox. Before we go, just direct you to another great article on the website this morning from Martin Ramsey. Get yourself a coffee or a tea and kick back and read this, folks. It's absolutely sensational. It talks about Michael Beale taking over at Rangers and how he's could embark on upon the legendary Ibrox bosses Walter Smith and Graham Souness, who set the standard before him. I read it this morning. It's absolutely superb. Josh has put the link in the description box as well, so go and have a read if you have time this morning. It really is a fantastic read. And I'll just touch on this question from Gallant Pioneer before we go. As Beale gave us a time scale for Lawrence again, I think we'll try and press on these issues this afternoon in terms of time scale. There's so many players out at the moment. Yanis Hadji is another one, Joshua, that I think we've seen him on the grass. He's not. I don't think he's close to a return in terms of game time in the foreseeable future, but he's certainly getting closer to linking up again with the squad, isn't he?
Yeah, but again, when you've been out for almost a year, like Hadji, I'd imagine it'll take a long time for him to get back up to speed. We'll see. Anyway, Derek, we need to go because I'm just seeing that we're getting a call here, which I presume is from the boss man. But I could be wrong. I don't know if you're getting that on your screen. But anyway, we'll be back. Obviously, when we'll be back, not today. I'm going to be at the press conference. We'll have the live video from that. Anything else to note, Derek? You've plugged the pieces already.
No, that'll do it for today, folks. Thanks as ever to everyone getting in touch with the programme. It's greatly appreciated. We'll be back again tomorrow morning to look ahead to that match against Hibs. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.